Walford Weekly, your weekly EastEnders podcast. This week we will be discussing the episodes released on BBC iPlayer in the UK from Monday the 28th of June to Friday the 2nd of July. Now, this man needs no introductions, so I'm not going to give him one.
Oh, no. The whole world knows who I am now. That's how famous this podcast has made me.
It's Rob. It's Rob.
Yo! Yo, and again I say yo. How are you, Alex?
I'm very well, cheers. Rob, how is yourself?
I myself is well. I've got time off work. 10 days off. Well, 9 now. But yes, can't wait. So happy just to not have to get up and stay up all night and put stuff on shelves and all that sort of thing. It's delightful. All is well.
Yeah. And you got big plans for the weekend?
Yes, going out Saturday nights, yes. Actually, this shirt, I thought I'd trial run it for the podcast today. This is actually the first time I've ever worn this shirt, so this was a potential for Saturday night. What do you think? It's potential. Yeah,
very nice. I mean, where are you going wearing that shirt? It kind of depends on where you're going out too, doesn't it?
Well, I think we're going to Prezzo's first. Other restaurants are available. And then afterwards we'll be going to some pub, club, whatever's open, and just getting absolutely annihilated. Somewhere with cocktails, I imagine.
Have you got Uber on tap, just ready to just press and be like, get me home?
Oh, you think we have Uber around this town? Please. No. The best we've got is like taxis that just wait, and you don't even know if they're a taxi when you get into it. You just sort of climb in and hope for the best and hope that they'll take you home, or it's a lottery. You never know. You never know around this town.
That's a risky game to play. Like just get into someone's car and hope that they're safe to be driven home by.
Why ruin the habit of a lifetime?
Yeah, I thought it might be the case. Nah, you're an angelic young man. I can't imagine you doing anything naughty or bad on a night out, Rob.
No, you haven't really got to know me yet, have you?
Well, off camera, yes, but on camera, we'll move on because we're going to talk about just briefly that we have we have a Patreon, and if you guys would like to throw some money our way just to support the show, then we'd be really, really grateful if you could donate. It's a monthly fee. We only have one tier. It's £2.50, which is the cafe tier. It's the price of a coffee. And if you are interested, then go to patreon.com/Walford Weekly. Right, that's the housekeeping out the way. We are going to go straight into talking about this week's EastEnders. Now, we're going to start where basically the big story was last week, and that is the Panasars, where this week Vinny needed a bit of comforting from Dotty, and Boy George, did he get it?
Boy George, did he get it? Wow. Boy George, did he get
I'm starting where I feel the show's going to go for the rest.
Brilliant. Absolutely fantastic. Yes, by George, did he get it? Yes. So, Dotty, I am somewhat amazed that this hasn't happened yet already. But then I also sort of think that they forgot about Dotty and Vinny's relationship for about 6 months. So yeah. Nothing happened in that 6 months between them, and then finally they've sort of remembered that Dotty and Vinny are these really good friends. What do you think then? Because it seemed that Dotty was immediately regretful of the situation, because we're back in the realms of grief sex again, which is something that seems to happen a lot on EastEnders. So someone will lose a family member or something like that, and grief sex just everywhere. I remember during the Lucy Beale storyline, everyone was getting grief sex left, right, and centre. Everyone, all over the place. It was like Basic Instinct everywhere. So, I mean, what do you think? Dotty. Yeah, Dotty. What do you think? What is she doing? What's her game?
I'm just thinking about this orgy of grief sex that happened on EastEnders. I feel like it
happens all the time. All the time.
Yeah, I know. I felt really sorry for Vinny, because obviously this was something that seemed to have stabilised him after his terrible week last week. And I don't really know what Dotty thought was going to come from it, because Dotty obviously, she went into it knowing, but it was the afterwards, wasn't it, where you saw them laying on the sofa and she was kind of like doing the old kind of putting herself apart and kind of moving away from him. And
but he'd fallen asleep.
Didn't want anything really to do. Yeah, it must have been very tiring grief sex.
Never done that either. Literally kind of I mean, I don't want to get too graphic here, listeners. I'm sorry, and like Alex says, I'm an angelic person. But, the twice that I've done it in my life, obviously, I've never just, finished and then just passed out from exhaustion at the end. That's never happened to me whatsoever. Just sort of, I've never done that myself. But, maybe I'm doing it wrong. Who knows?
I'm debating whether to tell a story or not, but I'm gonna.
Yes,
it's never happened to
tell
me.
Tell it immediately.
No, it's never happened to me. I think I've built up to something which is very interesting. But on a very drunk night, where it's kind of, when at the end of the night and you've got the dregs and you kind of just pick up
the what? The dregs. Oh, I see what you mean. Yes,
the dregs.
Yes.
Am I going to regret this story? Alex's mind is now ticking through.
You're the editor.
A guy who maybe there was a guy and.
Good. So the yes. So yes. Where I've lost my train of thought completely now. Yes. So I mean, what is the future?
Completely gone off subject.
Yeah, completely lost it. Yeah. So what is the future for Dotty and Vinny's relationship from here on in? Do you think? Or where does it go from here?
I think they work together, so I think it would be a shame if they don't get together, to be perfectly honest. I think they really do work well together. I'd like to know what it was that made Dotty anti it, though. Because to begin with, there didn't seem to be any signs of it, other than perhaps she just wanted a friend.
I think it's just that, I mean, I got the impression that it's, Dotty's one of these people that sort of, it's very dangerous to let people in. That sort of character that we get on EastEnders quite a lot, where they're sort of afraid of commitment and afraid to sort of show their emotions and all of this sort of thing. So I think actually the thing here is that she likes Vinny a lot more than she's letting on, and the fact that the first time they slept together was via grief and stomach pumping and all of this sort of malarkey. It's not something to tell the grandkids, is it really? This is the person I've been with my entire life. We met after we first slept together after he'd had his stomach pumped from Class A drugs and indulgent amounts of alcohol after the murder of his brother. It's not a great story. So I imagine that she just feels that it was the wrong time, that she's doing the wrong thing, and we will see them again, I think. Of course, Suki being Suki, didn't like.
Yeah, we mustn't forget Suki, because she interfered as well.
No, never.
Exactly.
She did. And did it in her normal sort of wash-bish way, where she was just overhearing conversations in the cafe and then told Dotty in no uncertain terms, "You've done your bit, let me take over from now." And Dotty's like, "I don't think you want to take over from where I've been, love, trust me." I've got to say, actually, what I've really enjoyed with the Panestar story this week is I've really enjoyed watching the sort of traditions of the family. Like when they're dealing with like a death in the family, wearing the white and the clearing of the living room, so they've got I'm learning literally as I'm watching EastEnders about what the procedure is here. But they seem to have cleared the room, so they've got lots of rooms to for praying and all wearing white in terms of respect. It's really interesting. I like all that sort of thing.
They did it a little bit with Shaquille when he died, didn't they? You looked into his funeral because it was a Muslim funeral, if my memory serves me right. And so they did it a lot different. In fact, it was interesting because they kind of had a Christian and a Muslim funeral, so they did both. And it was interesting to see how the two religions kind of worked together to create one funeral for Shaquille in the end. So yeah, I agree. It was interesting to see that new culture, that interest, and it would have been nice if they kind of maybe talked about that a little bit. But I suppose it goes off the story because obviously it's such a shock and such a horrible way for Jags to have died in prison. And Suki clearly is grieving heavily over it. And I feel like you said last week, I feel like the fallout, especially between the Mitchells and the Panesars, is going to be very, very bad. But I'm looking forward to that very much.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was quite nice for Sonia this week, poking her nose in as she normally does, bless her, going around with sandwiches and all of that sort of thing. And telling Suki that she was, people care for you, I don't think, I'm trying to remember a time that Sonia and Suki have ever shared a scene together, but I don't mind things like that because it's all on-screen partnerships have to start somewhere. But it's, it's saying that Suki's cared for and all this sort of thing. I don't think Suki is that cared for within her community, sadly. Maybe this is, I don't know, I got the impression really that it was sort of because we've seen a very melted Suki this week, very vulnerable Suki. You know, when she likes to speak, she's again, it's similar to Dotty actually. The fact that she clearly wants to be on her own, she doesn't want to show her emotions too much. She needs to sort of be there as this constant block of ice floating around. So I think that I wonder if we're going to see a slightly softer side with Suki moving forward, ever so slightly softer. You know, whereas she doesn't, sting every single member of her community whenever she sees them. She might sort of soften from them a bit. Still be the same sort of evil old harridan as she is to the rest of her family, but it's, it'll be interesting to see what effect this has on Suki moving forward.
I wonder if she's going to be even more tightly close to her own family and be more protective of them, which would then cause her to be perhaps less community driven. I mean, it's a very sad story about Jags, but if it moves the Pamasars on, then I don't feel that sad about Jags kind of losing his life to make the story evolve a little bit. Talking about relationships and blossoming on the square, the love triangle is starting to show its ugly head between Kathy, Shirley, and Terry.
Rocky.
Yes, or Rocky. So Sonia's found out a few bits and pieces because she got invited to go to the pub for Linda's baby shower birthday scenario thing, and she kind of worked out straight away and warned Kathy that if you're interested in Terry, then perhaps you should maybe consider not playing the hard to get game, which I think is fantastic that Kathy was playing that to start with as well. Yeah,
totally. Just this allure, sort of coquettish sort of. I don't think that's sort of really Kathy's role, really, is it? I feel like Kathy's the sort of woman who goes, "You, me, bedroom now." So
no, she's normally quite direct.
Yeah, so I don't know if that situation was read entirely well, but hey, Kathy upped her game this week. Basically, I brilliantly, I thought, sort of stormed into the Vic as, saw that Shirley and Terry were sort of sitting together and literally just stole Terry away at that moment. "You can come here to the bar, yeah? Yeah?" And Terry's literally like, "Yeah, all right, see you later, Shirley," walks off. I did feel a little bit sorry for Shirley, bless her, because she sort of just sat there all rejected with her vodka and tonic, just sort of like, "Oh, okay, bye." It looked quite sad with herself, so that was a little bit sad. I'm beginning to wonder, though, if this whole thing between, because I like this as a sort of threesome, and I like the fact that Kathy and Shirley sort of at loggerheads, because I think they, as characters, they work quite well together. I like it when Kathy's got a little duel going on with someone. And I do wonder if this is going to be the reveal of the Buster affair. I really do, because it seems like the perfect opportunity to sort of reveal it. I think it's literally the only affair that I can ever remember in the whole of soap that's never been revealed, and that Kathy completely got away with it scot-free. So it'd be interesting if that comes out now.
Absolutely. And you mentioned it last week, and I did a bit of delving actually, and I found out something about the Buster affair reveal. It had actually happened. But do you remember a few years back when they made a week's worth of programmes for EastEnders, and it was seen to be so bad that they never aired them? And so they had Bus Week instead.
Oh, the thing that was replaced the bus crash, yeah.
Yeah. It was that week when it was revealed, and it never got aired.
Oh, interesting.
So they obviously had to then go backtrack and pretend it hadn't been revealed for then the later episodes again. So
Wow.
So it had happened, but like you say, it's the longest time ever, I think, for anything to be kept so quiet, and I think that's good. I think it's kind of worked out better for it now because they've made this story between Kathy and Shirley and Rocky Terry for them to for this really cool Buster reveal to happen. Because like you say, I think the fight between them is going to be amazing. And I mean, could they be the new Pat and Peggy, do you think? Kathy and Shirley? Because there's a few contenders out there for who could be the new Pat and Peggy.
Yeah, there is. I think that they would need a little bit more attention put to them before we can sort of start giving them those sorts of accolades. because, you know, apart from the Buster thing and this, they haven't really had that much interaction at all. And of course, Pat and Peggy were best friends when they weren't ripping each other's hair out. So I think it needs. I think if they're going to focus on them as a sort of duo, perfect. Because I think actually both characters would work really well in that sort of scenario. But a lot of attention is going to have to be given to them. A lot of storylines and a lot of friendship and frenemy development is going to have to be given to them before we get to that stage. But the potential is there, absolutely.
Because it'd be a good genesis if you think about it. If it was the Terry kind of maybe goes with Kathy, but then he then gets swayed towards Shirley. He could turn up with a bow tie, swinging around in the back of the Queen Vic.
Yeah. I think there is shades of Frank in him. So. And
as I've said, it's been such a long time since there's been some kind of like a love affair story happening on EastEnders. And as we said last week, things seem to be opening up a little bit with the filming and the way people interact with each other. The social distancing seems to be, or the bubbling seems to be a bit more consistent now, where they seem to be able to do a lot more closer scenes where people can kiss and touch one another and so forth. So... yeah, I mean, if they were to bubble Kathy, Shirley, and Terry, or the actors, then I'd be well up for a love story, love triangle story like that. I think it's a kind of a comedy story like that would really be welcomed on the show. I think right now it needs a little bit of to soften the edges of the show. Another relationship, Mila and Iqra.
Yeah, well, they're she's going through meetings with like social workers and all that sort of thing at the minute, isn't it? So it's like some sort of Lord of the Rings trilogy, the guardianship of Keone. I think that it's going to be it's like what we've been saying for the past couple of weeks. You know, it would be nice to sort of see this a lesbian couple bringing up this sort of youngish child and dealing with all that. Yeah, I mean, the thing is that basically this week was Terry trying to sort of matchmake them and sort of get them back together and get them talking. So he literally swiped both of their mobile phones and then sort of like texted the other one and got them to meet in the square. And then it all went terribly wrong because Coney was like, Mila was like, "You're an idiot. I'm waiting for us to call from the social worker," and they just swiped the phone and stormed off. But I think, you know, they're getting there now. They're sort of talking to each other, and I think she's slowly starting to warm to the idea that Iqra was probably doing the right thing by getting her mother kind of locked up and arrested and all of that sort of thing. So yeah, I think now it's basically just going to be sort of dealing with Keone and getting that into play. I think you've also got to bear in mind that when Keone does come back onto the square, she's got to deal with the fact that her mum, and Keone's not very old, you know, so she's sort of got to, why is my mum in prison? Why has my mum been arrested? Are you going to explain any of this to me? You know, what is this whole sort of procedure you've apparently saved me from? And all, so how would you explain that to a kid of that age? Like, where do you even begin? It's like trying to tell a kid of that age, well, actually, your mum was taking you to this procedure and something quite unpleasant happens in this procedure, and sort of explaining it all. So it'll be interesting to see if they kind of go down that path or sort of just forget about it. I really hope they don't just forget about it, because it's, you know, it's like we've said from the outset, This is a massive topic. So, and it's not one that you can sort of just go, and this is the week we dealt with FGM and move around. You know, it's something that actually affects a lot of people and is a big issue. So, you know, and the ramifications of those sorts of issues can kind of go on for generations, and as we've seen. So I do want them to sort of never forget about it and kind of keep it going, but we'll see what happens when Keone eventually does return.
I think that the telling the truth to Keone about what her family, and again the kind of the whole family, I forget what they called them now, but like the aunties, is the next logical step with the FGM story. Because last week we were saying like, oh, was that really the end of it? And we both kind of agreed that the way it was done for that week, where they had those discussions with Iqra and Mila, and those really quite in-depth discussions about exactly what had happened to Mila and what the outcome of it, were brilliant and really well acted and performed and written. And I feel that when they said they were, and I championed the let's have a nice little family with Keone together with them. I think this is the next logical step for the story, because now you can see how a younger person who almost got themselves in that situation will react to it. Because obviously it will be quite a shock to her, and I wonder if she'll believe her, whether she'll, you know, believe that her mum could do such a heinous thing to her, or whether, you know, whether she'd be quite welcoming and like want to be with Mila, because they seem to have quite a nice relationship, Mila and Keone, as well, from the get set. And I think that I think that was really good. It wasn't just the fact that it was like some kind of like moody girl who's like, oh, all right, Mila, yeah, I'm going to see my aunties this week and I can't wait. And she was very sweet and very innocent as well. And she thought it was, you know, it was almost a treat to go and see her aunties to have this special, you know, day
Well,
out.
Of course, the other thing is, because, you know, as you say, she's innocent. And then obviously the discussion of, right, so my mum's taking me to this procedure. Why? What is the point in this procedure? And then you've got to also explain what the point of the procedure is and what it does. And then you go into different conversations about sex and all of that sort of thing. So it's a lot for a kid of that age to take on. So I really hope that they sort of go full on with it, because... Yeah, like we both said, you know, what is the point of doing an issue like this if you're not going to grab it by the horns and just sort of properly just display it everywhere and make it a big topic of conversation? So, be interesting.
Next up, then, we have Issac and his... You were almost right with Issac this week, because you said last week that you were hoping that when Lola goes into the potting shed in the allotments, that he would have all the paperwork on the walls and he'd have painted like, I hate you, and, you know, Johnny Allen die, and on the walls. And you almost got it right, because they were all laid on the floor in a very similar method. And lots of like 3-letter words as well, like how and why and
why.
What? You know, do you notice like all the little post-it notes just had like loads of like just random words written on them? So
really well done. Really well done this week.
Now
actually
had his breakdown.
Well, has he? Or is this just sort of the start of it? Because he's... Well, you know, it seemed... I think maybe it's just a sort of reaction to the sort of era that we're in at the minute. This doesn't feel like this is the big sort of finale to the story. Yeah, he locked a few people in an office and shouted at them. I don't think that's the end of it. I think it's going to get a lot bigger from this point of view. You know, if that genuinely is the, you know, the sort of climax as to how bad he's going to get, then... You know, no complaints, fair play, because actually that's all been dealt with very, very subtly indeed, which is, I think, is why I don't believe it's over yet. I really don't. Because, and I'm not saying that they might not go on and do bigger things with it and do it well. I'm not saying that for a second, but it seems very, very, very quiet way to sort of deal with the issue. You know, when you've got the opportunity for something like schizophrenia, you know, for a sort of era of EastEnders that likes to do all these sort of big set pieces with all sorts of, you know, effects and all that sort of thing. We've not even heard, the most we got in terms of special effects or sound effects or anything this week was a very brief little scene where sort of Issac was sort of staring out into space, and it genuinely worked in the context of the scene, weirdly, as well. Either that or they're listening to us, and I doubt that's happening either. So, you know, you never know. I'm not convinced. I'm not convinced that's the end of it at all. Because also, you know, Issac has said to Lola, "Oh no, I'll take my medication again." He clearly has no intention of taking his medication again. They're not going to be able to.
Yeah.
You know, it's very easy to fault to take medication. You know, stick it under your tongue and all of that sort of thing, and then spit it out later. So I'm not convinced this is the end of it at all.
Well, he doesn't seem to be even hiding the fact that he's not taking his medication, because apart from him saying, "Oh yeah, I'm taking it," he's quite clearly I don't know if it's deliberate or not, but he's quite clearly not kind of presenting himself like not a normal thing most people do to prove that they've taken it is like what you said, to go, look, I've taken it, and then the camera will turn away and they'll be like that, and then they throw it away or something like that. It feels though that like they're all very aware that Issac isn't taking his medication. Sheree seems quite optimistic, doesn't she? She said a few times, you know, last time I had to deal with something like deal with this with Issac, I was on my own, but this time I have Patrick, I have you. She's not being very forgiving of Lola, but I can kind of see where she's coming from with that, because Lola had many opportunities to kind of come forward and be more honest. And it took Patrick finding his notes, or Isaac's notes, for Lola to eventually tell the truth to him. So I can see Sheree's kind of reservations with letting Lola back in again to help. Yeah. Or even have a relationship with him.
Yeah, I mean, I think that I don't think Lola dealt with it quite as badly as she could have done, and to be honest, half as badly as I was expecting her to, because, you know, she was literally kind of told the day before that this was all kicking off, and did discover this sort of shrine to Paul and Johnny in the shed, and then sort of maybe sat with it overnight thinking, how the hell do I deal with this? And then all of a sudden, she's going into the Truman's house the next day and going, yes, I did find this out yesterday. Yeah, sorry about that. So I don't think she has done that much wrong, and I think that Sheree will probably forgive her. But the thing is with Issac, this is clearly not going away anytime soon in terms of his theories and all that, because he has created a massive amount of data for himself, to sort of make all these tenuous links towards between Johnny and Paul. And and the fact that I thought Patrick was brilliant this week, where he sat down and went, all right, talk me through it. Tell me, because, that's potentially quite upsetting for Patrick to sort of rake over the murder of his, murder of Paul and all this sort of thing and have to go over the details of it all. So he kind of put himself in the firing line for that and sat down and sort of, right, okay, let's see what you've got here. Talk to me and tell me what you think. And even Patrick's kind of like, this doesn't make sense, Issac. None of this makes sense. This isn't a thing, what you're saying here. And Isaac's kind of like feeling alone about it and all that sort of thing. I would argue that he went to his friend's house and Sheree was like, it's all right, is that his mate's? That poor mate having to deal with this. You're having a laugh.
Yeah.
Imagine if Isaac just turned up on your door and was like, all this, innit? I couldn't deal with that. I was just like, right, I'll get the beers, shall I? We'll have a chat. Yeah, great. That's my evening done.
Yeah. Cheers, Sheree. Thanks. Yeah, I know. I felt like that Sheree felt quite happy that he'd just been palmed off to some random friend.
Yeah.
Like,
we could have a night off.
I don't feel that was the most sensible decision. Yeah.
No.
Let's get Chinese in, shall we?
Uber Eats, let's go.
I love the scene this week where Lola had a go at Peter, because Peter, being his typical scoff way, honestly, I was stood up, I was like, yes, good on you, Lola, because my God, Peter, I mean,
straight
we
to
knew you were a prat,
Lola went after that.
God. Yeah. Yeah, she did. All they needed to do was have something fall on Peter for that moment to just be perfect.
Yeah.
And that would have been happy.
I was really hoping that she was going to throw the coffee that she was holding into his face. That would have just completed it.
Scolding his face.
Scolding his face and sending him straight to hospital for 6 months. Like, why is Peter such an arsehole these days? Like, what have they turned him into? Like, he's such an arrogant, snivelly little kind of just so full of himself and so nasty. Like, he's really not a nice person at all. And it seems like pretty much everybody in the square is kind of like, shut up, Peter, go away. And it's like, this isn't... I mean, like, even Jean was sat there applauding her from the outset. Well done. Yeah, that's the way to deal with him. Well done. Like, it was awful. Like, he's a horrible human being these days. I don't like him at all. And he's not had he's not gone to see Ash or anything like that. He's not bothered about Ash grieving for her brother or anything like that. She's still chatting to Bobby about how often he gets laid and all that sort of thing. The women of Walford must be blind and deaf to, not blind, because he's a good-looking guy. The actor's very pretty. But just the way that they're writing Peter at the moment, sort it out, EastEnders, because this is supposed to be a character that a few years ago we had massive amounts of sympathy for, as he was howling with grief in the square when Lucy was killed. It's not... I don't feel sympathy for this guy. If the same guy going through that now would be like, now you know how it feels. Like you to be sad and unhappy. Like, it's just sort it out. For goodness sake, he's not likeable at all at the moment.
It's funny, isn't it? Do you feel there's hints of them writing him a bit like Ian, his dad? Because I felt like some of the things, this conversation he was having with Lola felt a little bit Ian Bealey to me. Like the way he was kind of
interesting,
looking down his nose at them.
That's interesting, and maybe sort of looking, because the thing is with Ian, I don't think Ian is an arrogant arse, and but I think that Ian is very arrogant in terms of money and sort of ownership and business and all of that sort of thing. Whereas, maybe Peter's a lot more arrogant and looks down on people in terms of looks and all that. So that actually would be quite interesting. I'll buy that. That would be good. I would enjoy that. But then I think to sort of make that more obvious, Ian needs to be back so that they can have battles and sort of fall out and all that sort of thing, and so that the parallels can be made. Yeah. So, but I think that's interesting actually. I quite like that. I'll buy that and shut my face for now then, because that's quite interesting.
I mean, that doesn't necessarily make me forgive Peter for just some of the things he's done since he's returned to the square. Because
he still should have had a scalding hot cup of coffee thrown in his face.
Yeah. Come back 6 months later with another new face, maybe. We had to use plastic surgery.
Right, a skin grafting.
It'd be like, what's that scene in Batman when, like, is it the Joker? And he has his, like, he's like, give me the mirror! Give me the mirror!
Yeah. I'm new! Brilliant. Yes.
Yeah, so we briefly found out this week also that Ruby is having further tests for her endometriosis.
Oh, nearly. Well done, yes.
Yeah. and she has to have a test before her actual test. To be honest with you, I wasn't really keeping up with it very much. But my God, this really does open a few questions of I think it kind of asked the question of whether Ruby was that serious about really wanting kids after all. Because she mentioned it a few times with Jean and to Martin this week. That is it really worth all this poking and prodding for her?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, with this whole Ruby wanting kids thing, me and you have differed on this, because you are kind of like, it's a complete rewrite of her character, I don't like it, they're sort of turning Ruby into this person that she wasn't, a couple of years ago and all that sort of thing, and I do see that, but what I also see with Ruby is somebody that has, since she's arrived back on the square, has realised that she's surrounded by families and, especially at the start when the Slaters were taking her in and all that sort of thing. And now she's got Martin and all that sort of thing. I think that what she's trying to do is sort of start her own family so that she's got people around her. That for me has always sort of been Ruby's goal with all this sort of thing, just to sort of keep people there so that she's not on her own again, with the death of Johnny and all of that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So to see her going through all this, it makes it 10 times harder, obviously, because, she doesn't know whether she's ever going to be able to carry children. The endometriosis thing is, ongoing, and it's interesting because when this story was first announced, somebody turned around to me, I can't remember who, somebody on social media said, yeah, to be fair, endometriosis isn't something that you just get diagnosed with. It's something that is tested for months and months and months. So actually, they're being extremely accurate with this. Because I thought they were literally going to sort of cut all that out and go, no, it's endometriosis, love. Don't worry, just believe us. It is. I promise you it is. So it's nice that they've sort of, like, they're keeping all this going. And apparently, the tests to make sure that the tests that you're having to test for and doing all of that sort of thing is all totally like what you would do. And it's a traumatic thing for a woman to have to go through, sort of all this prodding and poking and, and not knowing what the end result's going to be and finding out all these things that are wrong with you. So it's going to be rough on Martin and Ruby for a little while now, I think. It depends, obviously, how she starts getting on with Lily and, all the other kids as to how much she decides whether she really, really wants kids of her own. Because obviously the main bulk of it is going to be when Stacey returns. I can't wait for Stacey to return just to sort of see like what her revenge is going to be on Ruby. But yeah, it's a sad story. It's a sad story for Ruby. It's easy to forget, I think, what Ruby has done up to this point to sort of, when she was landing Stacey in prison and, plotting against and all that sort of thing. Because there's a lot of people online that really don't like Ruby for what she did and still don't like Ruby for what she did. And I've sort of forgotten about it all. And I'm just looking at Ruby thinking, poor Ruby. And yeah, you're right. She did some bad stuff and I shouldn't forget about that. But I kind of have,
Yeah, I mean, it's funny that this week Jean seemed to be trying to pry into Ruby's life more. Seemed to be an ear to kind of, or a shoulder to cry on, when Ruby was telling Jean about, the test that she has to have and how Martin feels about it. But there was a little bit of me that felt like there was a moment, and I can't remember exactly how it went, but Jean kind of said, like, Ruby said she was a bad person, and this is probably kind of like God's way of like punishing her. That's why she's might not be able to have kids. And Jean kind of opened up and said, "Well, is there a reason why you might feel that way?" And I felt like Jean was trying to get Ruby to confess to her that she actually had lied and that she's caused Stacey to go into prison. And I wondered whether Jean's sympathy toward Ruby, there's a lot more to it than meets the eye, and that she's actually doing it on purpose to try to get a confession from Ruby, which will then ultimately get Stacey out of prison.
Maybe. I mean, to be fair though, Jean, since she's found this second lump like last Christmas, is just in Aslan mode at the moment though, isn't she? Like, she's going around all the square, sort of like handing out all this wise sage advice, like she was with Issac when he was having his meltdown, going, "Well, go for a walk, Issac," and recognising the signs of like a severe mental breakdown in him because of the bipolar that she suffers from. Jean is I think Jean is really cementing herself as such an important, wise character that the Square really needs. So, it sort of always leaves that question of what's going to happen to Jean, and I wish they'd answer it because I'm getting really sort of I don't even know if annoyed is the right word, but it is sort of frustrating. It's can we have some sort of answer as to what's going to happen to Jean, please, please? You can't give us all this and then kill her off. That would be ridiculous. I'd be really, really annoyed if that happens.
It's funny. It's funny because I forget that Jean might die from cancer and that she hasn't been diagnosed whether she has it or not. All the time, I forget about it. And it's not until, I think about the story in my mind, because obviously we're doing the podcast, and I think, oh no, hang on, Jean might be dying from cancer. I forget all this every time. No.
Yeah, I just want them to
I hope she doesn't
give us
die.
some definitive answer. I hope she doesn't die, but I just want them to give us some sort of definitive answer. We beg for this every week. Will you please tell us what's going on with Jean? Please. We need to know. So I can either start grieving or start cheering. One of the two, but just let me know what tie I need to wear, please.
Rob wants grief sex. Writer to EastEnders.
Yes.
Any excuse now. Jean died.
Any excuse. Yeah.
It's been so long now. Surely something. I don't know. I mean, they mention now and then she's tired. The CBD oil. We were wrong with our theory there that she would be literally smothering herself in CBD oil, trying to get rid of the tiredness and the pain.
Are they still in the? Are they still in the garage? I'm presuming
it's just they've gone. Well,
what's
Jean
the point?
Asked Zach to get rid of them. Well, I don't know. Jean asked Zach to get rid of them.
Because she told him not to, and then turned the lights off and just then sort of shut the door on them.
Yeah, she let them die.
So they're still, but they're not dead yet. They can't be. Not that I know too much about cannabis horticulture or anything like that, but we know. I don't know if you do it, but it's another one of those stories. Jean has so many incomplete stories at the moment. It's really annoying me. Just Jean as well. It's not like there's sort of stories all over the place where I'm sort of but what about that? But what about that? But what about that? It's just Jean. That she's got so many sort of threads just going off in random directions. It's kind of would you please start tying some of these together soon, please, EastEnders, because it's annoying me. Honestly.
You don't think they're planning a spin-off for Jean, do you? Like a Redwater-styled spin-off for Jean?
I mean, you've got a saga already. There's so much potential.
There you go. I mean, I welcome it. They can I'm trying to think of stories. Jean. If anyone has ideas of what a spin-off... Breaking Jean, exactly. If anyone has any ideas of what a spin-off for Jean, storyline-wise, location... anything really, comment below if you're watching us on YouTube, or get in touch with us at Walford Weekly on Twitter and Instagram. We'd be fascinated and may read out your story suggestions for the spin-off. Yeah. Also titles. Just Jean, though. I like that title. Just Jean.
Jean. Like Maud. And then there's Jean, and then there's Right Upon It Enterprise and Right on Jean. Sorry.
Is this the theme tune for Just Jean?
Yeah. No, you never heard the theme tune to Maud? It's great. That thing with B. Arthur in the 80s. Marvellous theme. Or 70s probably even. Great theme tune.
Oh, anyway, what, the Golden Girls?
Yeah, but the one that she did before the Golden Girls.
Oh, she could do the Golden Girls with Shirley and Kathy.
Yeah, so you'd have Kathy, Shirley, and then who else would you have? Jean, and then you'd need one more. Sharon, obviously, as Blanche.
You could have had Mo.
Yeah, that would have been good.
Mr. Trick there,
Sharon
didn't they?
Yeah.
The Golden Girls.
That's your other task. Give us some sitcoms with EastEnders characters in, specifically the Golden Girls. We want to know what you do with them. Got loads of homework this week.
There you go. That's your homework.
There you go.
That's your homework this week.
Crack on.
Get in touch. We are going to talk about now Kat's new venture with Phil, the laundrette / taxi office. Still not quite clear what really is the plan with it, other than the fact that Phil has now bought loads of taxis or cars, and he's put loads of emblems in the back with Ray as like a suffix or a prefix on there. So like Bat Ray and Spider Ray and Iron Ray.
Yes. Yeah.
I wish I was making this up. And the whole point of it is that Phil has revealed to Kat that he wants Ray involved with the business. Which Kat quite rightly said, Ray doesn't really know that you're his father, and Denise has made it quite clear that she doesn't want him to know that either. So where does this really leave Phil now? Phil's kind of threatened to say that he is going to make sure that he finds out by any means possible.
Yeah, I don't know, but like, what exactly are you planning to do to a 3-year-old, though? It's like everyone was sort of worried about Ray finding out. It's kind of like, what do you think is going to happen? Like, somebody's going to tell him over the pub with a pint. Like, he's 3. You know, I don't think Ray cares at the moment who his dad is. All he cares about is whether Paw Patrol's on the TV or not. He's not bothered about who his dad is. If that man wants to come and buy me a football, great, I'll call you dad if you like. Just give me a football and an ice cream. They're not that bothered, kids at that age, you know? They couldn't give a toss. So Phil, like, decorating all his taxis is a nice thought. It's a sweet little sentiment, but ultimately pointless at this stage. Give it a few years, and maybe that will have a little bit more sort of purpose to it. But, and as if the taxi business is still going to be going in 2 years, I doubt it considerably.
I mean, it's sweet that they've actually remembered that Kat was trying to get her black cab licence, and that they've remembered that and spun it into this story. I mean, you know... Credit where credit's due. They've kind of remembered. Totally. I wondered if Kat is more worried about Phil caring more about Raymond than he is for her and her kids, because she was like really into like the stream of things with her and Phil in the cafe, and they were talking about the business and she was getting really excited about it, and then as soon as Raymond walked in, Phil's attention just went boom and kind of just was completely distracted, and then didn't seem to care anymore about Kat. And I wonder if Kat's intentions isn't that she feels like she's trying to help out Denise and Raymond by convincing him not to say anything, but in actual fact for herself, because she doesn't want Phil's, you know, she wants Phil for herself. Because their relationship's still quite young, isn't it? And so she probably kind of likes the ways things are at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, you know, that said though, you know, Phil has already tried to sort of, you know, be over-involved with the kids' life. We should mention that we've got a new Tommy this week. New Tommy started, who seems as, seems like seems like we've got a new gobby kid. He seemed quite gobby, didn't he? What if he did, like, I mean, you know, I'm sure he's going to be great, and presumably they've recast him for a reason, so presumably Tommy's on his way to a story. He's probably going to have his legs chopped off or something horrific. But, you know, it's like, they've given him a bit of personality, and he's quite into football. All Phil's dreams are coming true. He's finally got a son-like figure in his life that will play football with him. Fantastic. It's a shame he's getting too old to play football now properly, but that's, you know, details. So yeah, we've got new Tommy, but I do think that Kat has made it quite clear that she doesn't want Phil overly involved with her kids' lives. You know, not yet at least. So I think she's quite happy for Phil to sort of direct his attentions to Ray and his actual own child rather than trying to keep control of her kids, you know? I think that's sort of better for her, because I think he kind of gives Kat sort of that sort of reign over her own kids and a bit of freedom. And I think she's quite happy to sort of help out Phil do whatever he needs to with Denise. It's an interesting role for Kat, I think, because it gives her a sort of... I think it's a role that we've not really seen Kat in before. Because normally Kat is the head of her own relationship, isn't she? You know, even when she was with Alfie, you know, it was clear that Kat wore the trousers in the relationship. And I think that's debatable in this. I think there's going to be an interesting sort of battle for who wears the trousers ultimately in a relationship with Phil Mitchell. And I do like that they've not given us much, but the little bits and pieces with her and Sharon, sort of like sniping at each other about Phil. So that's going to be interesting, and I want to see more of that. Because Sharon's been quite quiet recently. I do love these new directions that they've taken both Phil and Sharon in. It's great. I'm so happy that they've sort of finally tore them apart like Velcro. Kind of ripped them apart and throw them off in different directions. It's great. Really happy about that.
Yeah, I agree with you there. And we must admit that obviously Kat has a past as well of keeping a secret from a family member, because obviously she didn't tell Zoe that she was Zoe's mother. So Kat can relate to Phil in this one, I think. So yeah, again, I don't know if it was intentional.
Leave it till he's 18 and then have a massive argument with him in the square. I'll do it, won't it?
Yeah, you ain't my father.
Yes, I am.
Hey, here I am, hey.
Hey, what? What'd you say? I can't hear you. What? Was he a trumpet?
I'm on my third liver.
You come back here. Say that to my face.
Football gets smacked in the face and fall to the ground.
Yeah.
I'd really like to talk about Bernie and Tiff and Rainey and Stuart actually this week as well, because the surrogacy story is starting to move along now, and Rainey has made a decision with a little help from Vi as well. Bless Vi. Vi was championing Bernie, saying, you know, she's done this, she's lost weight for you, she's done everything in her power that she can to help you, and you're still umming and ahhing about it, and I think you should, you know, take it on and let her, you know, carry your child. And so they did eventually decide they wanted to, but Bernie's becoming a little bit obsessed with these pills now for her weight loss that Tiff is doing through a multi-level marketing scheme as well. I mean, I feel like we're forgetting that this is a multi-level marketing story as well in a funny old way. But I'm wondering if that is going to take precedent at some point or not. Because at the moment, it's all about Bernie, you know, taking these pills. I mean, again, I might be being a bit gross like I was at the top of the show. But do you know what these pills do? Because a friend of mine actually took these
Make you
pills.
poo orange.
Well, they make you poo fat, basically. They bind the fat in your feces. Gross. And it's disgusting. So if these max strength ones, I mean, that porcelain must be cracked.
Honestly. This is a podcast for the ages. This one is this week, I tell you. It's... That's gross. So Rainey Bernie, they went to, because Rainey actually decided that she was going to go to the slimming group with Bernie this week, his Fat Blasters thing. We've got the return of the, I like this woman. I don't know why, but the return of the woman who's the leader of the Fat Blasters group. I like her a lot. She's like the most passive-aggressive bitch that EastEnders has had in years. I really like her. Like throwing like bags of sand at people's head. Look what you've lost! I like her a lot. And Rainey was Rainey was like genuinely really disappointed when she said that she'd lost 3 pounds. 3 pounds genuinely is quite a lot of weight to lose in 7 days. And I think Rainey was like fully expecting us to say, "You've lost 8 stone in a week. Well done!" Like looking really disappointed by what Bernie had actually lost. But yes, ultimately, it does end up in Bernie being sort of made the surrogate, and they go to the clinic and have the insemination. And we got hints that all was not well with the money that Bernie. The only reason that Bernie's doing all of this, and then the insemination thing happens, and they come back, and Bernie's like, "So can I have the money, please?" And Rainey's like, yeah, about that," which I thought actually was bang out of order from Rainey's perspective. Like, she should have said that a lot sooner. Like, bang out of order, I think, actually. Like, ignoring everything that is going on with Bernie that we know. Yeah, because I think Bernie would have understood, like, because it turns out she's paying for a private investigator to go and, you know, get involved in Max's multiple off-screen storylines. So it's, you know, and I think Bernie would have understood that. She'd have been like, "All right, yeah, no, fair play. Let's just not go and get me inseminated with your husband's sperm just yet then." You know, it would... Because Bernie's clearly still interested in the role. She's made that perfectly clear. "I will do it. I'm fine with that. Just make sure you pay me properly."
But she's doing it for the money, isn't she? Yeah. But don't you think that she would, because she's doing it for the money, don't you think that she would probably lose a little bit of interest if she wasn't doing it straight away? That's the only thing I thought. Perhaps... Maybe Rainey knows that Bernie's been quite honest that she's doing it for the money, and maybe Bernie thought, if I told her before the insemination, maybe Bernie would be a little less interested in doing it.
Yeah, maybe, but I mean, you know, we both love our Rainey, but that was a low thing I think Rainey did this week.
It was a low for Rainey.
You know, it was a low for Rainey, because, like, you know, you've got this woman pregnant, and then saying, "Yeah, there's 50p. The rest is coming." That's bad, very bad indeed. Poor form, Rainey.
And a
poor form, Lorraine. They're expensive these days. To be fair, you'd be all right.
I
know. Yes. So, yeah, and as we say, Bernie is now becoming slowly more obsessed with these diet pills. It's not going to end well, is it? Because even Tiff's like, "I don't think you should be taking these, really." But there you go. Like, Tiff's going back to her drug dealing days, where she's flogging these pills that she knows are bad, and she'll take the money for them. But no, you really shouldn't take them; they're bad. I'm half expecting I'm half expecting Evie to be the one that she's getting these fat pills from. I'd love that. That would be brilliant. I'd be delighted with that. She goes to McClunky's, and Evie sat there in a long trench coat, with a bit of fried chicken. hello, darling. Yeah, babe, thank you very much. In a slinky voice, I'd be happy. Well, no, it's not going to happen, but I'd be delighted.
She'll do it on her Facebook page, wouldn't she? Like all the MLM sellers do, isn't it? It's like, oh, you never believe what's happened today, loves. Oh, I've got these new pills today, loves, exclusively for me. Buy 12 packs and you can be part of a family. Mm.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know what the rate of fat losing is with these pills.
I mean, they're pretty, like I say, it's pretty gross by the amount that... No, but the amount that comes out, like my friend didn't. I mean, she wasn't shy with showing me.
Oh, you're joking!
It was a bad day. Oh yeah.
Don't do that. These diet pills are very bad, and Bernie needs to stop taking them immediately. No, they're very bad. Don't take them. They're terrible things.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. There's a lot of kind of underlaying storylines with this one. Like I say, there's the Tiff story still with her cosmetic surgery and her wanting to look, more. Yeah, and so there's the multi-level marketing storyline, which surely they're not going to miss out an opportunity on that because the other soap is doing it right now. And we always talk about how they seem to, by coincidence or not, they seem to always do something similar. There's always a storyline that's similar to one another. I can't help but think that they wouldn't miss an opportunity to do a story where Tiff gets herself into even greater debt by buying more and more of these pills. It's interesting that they're kind of not touching on that part of the story, and they're touching more at the moment with the Bernie wanting to buy like them to make herself thinner through, in order to lose weight quickly. Yeah, there's a lot of story within this one kind of
layered
surrogacy story, and very layered. And it feels like the surrogacy story is just one part of it all, because obviously there's Vi there as well at the moment, who seems to be getting on quite nicely with Stuart and Rainey. But I can't help but think that won't last very long either.
Well, I think her and Lorraine are just sort of. They're not that fond of each other. I think they've got a grudging sort of respect for each other. And that's going to be that's going to be the relationship between them moving forwards. It's just going to they're going to have rows, and they're going to have moments of softness, and then rows again, and then sort of come together. And I'm all for that. That sounds great. I did enjoy the fact that someone actually did ask why does she keep saying Whitney all the time? Like they're proper keeping this joke going, and I absolutely love it. I see people kicking off about calling Ben Whitney. For me, it gets funnier the more she does it. I absolutely love it, but that's just me. I love a running joke.
No. Yeah, and it's nice, again, the consistency of it is nice.
Yeah.
But did you notice also this week with Vi, they've toned her down a little bit? Because she did go in bulldozing with her character, and she seems to have gone a little bit less now.
You say that,
but from 10 to about 8 or 7.
Yeah, you say that, but she did go through the insemination process, and I can fully imagine her bringing her own rubber gloves. So I don't think she's that toned down, really.
It's just the way it's being portrayed seems to be like it was very loud and brash and I get it because she's a new character. They needed to bring her in,
that mark.
But make that mark. But I feel like they realised that the mark's been made now, and they've kind of told the actress kind of just bring it in a little bit now, and it doesn't need to be quite so much. Especially if they're doing these very somber stories with the pregnancy and with Bernie and so on and so forth. I think that if they carried on being this kind of very high octave character, is going to kind of not give the impact that they perhaps wanted from it. But maybe that's just something I spotted. We'll see. Last of all, we have Linda, and it was her birthday this week. And I can't remember her age, but I remember 43. Being very surprised. 43. See, she's not much older than me. But who looks better? And she got a letter or a parcel.
Can you do your hair up in one of those buns?
Max.
I think that would work quite well. If I know you're growing your hair.
If
you can get your hair into a Linda bun, then we'll make the decision, and we'll do like a comparison picture, like you've got on the screen now. We'll do like who looks better with a beehive.
What are those things that you used to be able to buy on infomercials late at night? Bumpits. Do you remember those things? Bumpits. And you'd basically tie your hair and it'd bump it up.
No, but it sounds excellent.
Google it after the show and let me know. And anyone who remembers Bumpits, let me know. Comment below. More homework.
So much homework.
Linda got a parcel this week from... Everyone's doing our job for us now. Linda got a parcel this week from Max, and it was posted from... I forget where it was. Was it Denmark or...
Croatia,
because I said it was... Oh, Croatia, that's it. Because I said there was daffodils on the
Why is he in Croatia?
Well, I thought it was...
all places.
Well, yeah. But Linda didn't know whether to pass on this information or not, because she was a bit, again, worried that if Max was to find out and come back to the square, that he would put two and two together and pretty much, work out that the child is his. And so she was a bit reserved with letting Rainey know, even though Rainey was quite clearly upset still and had hired a private investigator. But she did eventually make the decision to tell Jack. Now, I mean, I think we're safe to say that I don't think Max is planning to return to the square anytime soon. However, do you think it was the right thing to do to let Max, considering they're not letting anyone else know, like they're keeping the secret of the date from everyone else? Do you think it was the right thing to do to let Jack kind of in?
I think it was totally the right thing to do. Totally the right thing to do. And I'm really, really pleased that they did. Because I was kind of thinking, they're going to keep this really long secret, aren't they? And they literally, by the time that they decided to go from, we won't tell anybody, by the end of that episode, they're going, but we'll tell Jack. So, so just so they can find Max and sort of, keep the Abbey sort of thing going. So I was really, really pleased about that. I do think that Linda is overthinking this slightly. Because I don't think Max is the sort of person that would, sit there with his calendar and do the dates. When did I have sex with Linda? Oh, it was that night. Yeah, she's pregnant with my child. I don't think he would make that. Yeah, do you know what I mean? Oh, it's a Friday. Yes. I don't think that he's going to make that
That's
connection.
One of my sex days.
Yeah. The moon was full that night. I was on one. I don't think that he's going to make that connection. I really, really don't. In fact, I don't think anybody in the entire square would make the connection. Because there's that. Maybe Linda and Mick had grief sex one night, and a baby was created that way. I think she is massively, massively overthinking this, but that's the situation we're in. And she's quite annoyed because Frankie decides to throw her a birthday party / baby shower this week. And hence why we get a Vic full of people that are all ready to celebrate Linda's birthday. What is a baby shower exactly? Like, why is it called a baby shower? Do you know?
Oh, you did. I thought they were quite common knowledge now. They're basically.
I know what they are, but why is it? I know what they are.
Why is it called a shower? Because you're showering. Yeah. You're showering the mother with gifts. You're throwing her. That's why it's called a baby shower, because you're showering.
Just bring a little shower that you get from a doll's house.
Showering. Yeah. Just spray her with a shower. Water pistols,
like a hose pipe.
Until she's soaking wet.
Shower!
to prove that she's pregnant, because then the clothes will cling to the bump and they'll be like, no, you didn't lie after all. All right, see you in 3 months, and off they go.
That's a great idea. That makes much more sense. Anyway, so there we go.
I hope they don't do like a stupid gender reveal or something stupid like that as well, because I feel like that might be something they'll end up doing.
But I don't think Linda particularly wants people to know about this, does she? I think she wants to keep this pregnancy as quiet as she possibly can. So she doesn't want Max to sort of see blue smoke in the distance rising up from Walford over the horizon and sort of go,
well, from Croatia.
That's my son! Standing on a mountain with Abby under one arm, pair of binoculars in the other. That's my baby over there! So, yeah, no.
No, I mean, I'm hoping that they tell the secret to Shirley, because I think the Shirley discovering will be really fun. And I think that Sharon's going to end up finding out, because now they're BFFs again. Sharon has to find out, doesn't she? In fact, I think she pretty much worked it out herself anyway.
I just don't see why this is a story, because they're never bringing Max back. So why is there sort of this secret that's waiting to be exploded? And then when the explosion does happen, the person who it most matters to isn't going to be there to be exploded. So I don't see why I don't understand. I really don't. But in all fairness, if this is all for Kelly Bright's, maternity leave, this is by far the most subdued sort of leaving story we've had for a maternity leave for a long, long time. So it's fine. Just get on with it. It's fine. Make it happen.
I mean, I'm just waiting. I'm guessing it'll be like a threat of Max coming, and then she'll be like, I have to go, and then Linda will just run away.
Run away!
Run away!
For 6 months.
Pack a bag and run away! I mean, if she got a Benny Hill theme at the end of EastEnders, I would.
Instead of a Julia theme.
The Benny Hill theme.
Benny Hill theme.
Yeah, I'd enjoy that.
Perfect.
I guess. And as you say, it's a non-story, because we know that not Max Bowden, Jake Wood. We know that Jake Wood isn't going to return. So, what's going on? What's going on? Who knows? Anyway, I think that's all the stories this week. Unless you have anything to add, anything that you remember fondly that
Chelsea and Gray are still going on. That's sort of ongoing. Hasn't really changed all that much. Denise is admirable of the fact that Denise genuinely said, "That's my girl," when she found out about Gray and Chelsea this week, which kind of works because now that they've both had sex with serial killers. I did work out actually that if Chelsea becomes pregnant and has a baby via Gray, that kid's father and grandfather will both have been serial killers. That's mad, isn't it? That's absolutely insane. Even by EastEnders standards. A generation of serial killers. Brilliant.
Yeah.
The family tree of just jags and knives coming out of the branches.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Blood dripping from them.
Yeah, apart from that was the week in Walford this week, and I think it's been an alright week. I have enjoyed this week. I think it's a shame actually that these episodes have been dropped onto iPlayer because I think a few people might be missing them. And it's been a decent pair.
I agree entirely.
Yeah,
I agree with you entirely. And can I tell you a little secret, Rob?
Please do.
Ben said that EastEnders is getting much better.
He never did.
He did.
Shocking.
I know.
Shocking. I'm gonna click onto my chair as your podcaster host now, aren't I? I better just make sure that I'm gonna stick to it like super glue.
No, I wouldn't worry too much. But Ben said the exact same thing as you. He said it's actually been a bit of a shame that they've kind of moved EastEnders around because also this week they moved EastEnders from BBC One to BBC Two for
about 5
a
minutes
Wimbledon
notice.
tennis match.
Yeah.
With 5 minutes notice, because lots of people were saying, "Oh, I'm on BBC One, I can't find it."
Yeah.
So considering, and like you say, it's been it's been really strong for some bizarre reason. It's almost as if, when they think that people aren't going to watch it, they're actually doing quite well.
It's like, don't look at me, I can only do this if you're not looking at me.
Yeah, it's like, what's the time, Mr. Wolf, or something, isn't it? It's like in their back to the wall and they're not looking, all the good storylines,
weeping angels,
all the good storylines are coming toward. Yeah, exactly. Anyway, we've got I've got a comment from Twitter this week that someone had written to us. So we're gonna have a very quick I ain't one to gossip.
You know me, I ain't one to gossip.
So we had one comment this week from Twitter that I'd like to read out, and it was from @SophieAlford, 2 Ds, and she wrote, "I wish they'd remember that Tamika is a good actress. Her last serious storyline was with Vincent, and they've just turned her into a caricature, and it's becoming quite boring after a while." Now, this is probably because I tweeted after the episode was aired on the BBC that every time Kim seems to come back from her holidays, she becomes like the stereotype cartoon of that country. So when she came back from Scotland, she was wearing a kilt and she was going, "Oh, Caganese!" Yeah, and then she came back from France and she was like, "Ooh la la!"
I'm amazed that she didn't have onions around her neck.
Exactly, and I agree with that comment. Tamika can do so much more, I'm really worried that they seem to be they brought her back, and I'm worried that they've just brought her back as a bit of comic relief, because it's always in a very serious moment she kind of storms in and says like a really silly comment, and I don't want her to be that. I want Kim's story back. I want Kim to, I don't know, have a really interesting story again. But I can't really think what she could have other than looking for her missing children that just seem to be nowhere at the moment. What do you think? Do you think there's something they could do with Kim?
To be honest with you, it doesn't bother me. I think that Kim is literally the only character they could get away with doing that sort of thing. I feel like Kim is a sort of free pass to enter. The thing is, she seems like the thing is with Kim, she is the sort of person that would do that. She goes somewhere. And that's like when she went to Scotland and was absolutely convinced that she was part Scottish and had Scottish heritage all over the place. I think she's the sort of person that would go and so passionately embrace the place that she's been to that she will just buy all of the stuff from the tatty tourist shop, plaster herself in it and come back and go, "I am so cultured these days. Look at all the things I wear." So I actually don't mind that side of her personality at all. And I think that she is a very funny character, and I think that it would be a shame to lose that too much. You need light and shade. And I know that Tamika Epson has always said that she doesn't want Kim to be a clown. which, she kind of, sort of treads the line of sticks her toe over there ever so slightly, so much with some of the stuff that Kim gets to do. But honestly, Kim doesn't bother me in the role that she has. I would like her to get more involved, because I think the problem is with a character like Kim, when you've got a serious sort of storyline going on with the Trumans, I think, like, for example, when the Lucas stuff was going on, God forbid that we ever would speak of that again, but, Kim's role felt a little bit awkward because she was kind of just standing there sort of, whilst all her family is fretting about the fact that a serial killer is, going around the house and all that sort of thing, Kim's just there sort of like making the odd crack and then sort of leaving again. So maybe, yeah, but for me, I don't mind her that much, but I do see what you mean, but I think it would be a shame to sort of lose that instant comic relief that comes onto a scene whenever Kim enters, because I think that she's just brilliant. And, and like I say, I think she can get away with wearing all these silly outfits from going to places. I would say I did have no idea that she went to France, though. When did she go to France? Like, she just walked in and was like, I've been to France, have you? When? When did you go to France? When did that happen?
I know. Do you know they're on the amber list, Kim? Do you know you should have been quarantined for 10 weeks? Alternate universe. Talking about Kim, I was so pleased when they said Tamika was coming back. It did make me laugh when you said about her like being like almost like completely ignored when the Lucas story happened, the most recent Lucas story happened with Chelsea and him. That she made a line this week also where she said like, oh, I wish someone had told me about Isaac because my kids are in that house. And I did again, just me going back to what I just said. It's like, where are your children?
Locked in an attic. Isaac doesn't know they're there. You don't know they're there. Don't worry about your kids, mate. They're fine. Trust me. Honestly, I mean, one
maybe
of the
Isaac's
kids.
the only one who can see them.
Yeah, maybe. One of the kids we've had like what's his name? Not Pearl. The other one. What's his name? The son that she's got.
Oh, we've done this before.
We've not seen him since she returned. Once. Not once. We've seen Pearl briefly a couple of times, but the other kid doesn't exist. She didn't even come in with him. Oh, he's in the car. Like, we've never seen this kid, ever, since she's been back. So, if you want to do stuff with Kim, let's remember that she has children. Please. Just remember that these kids exist.
What I mean.
This is the problem with giving kids to soap characters, because they get forgotten about. It's all very well having the drama of the pregnancy and, the father-mother drama and all that kind of thing. It lasts a nice few months. But then after that, you've got a kid that they always have no idea what to do with, because it's inconvenient for the character to have a kid, because they can't go out. They wouldn't realistically be able to go out and cause drama and have affairs and, beat people up and, all of this sort of thing. You wouldn't do that because you'd be at home cradling this screaming child. So it's just, they're massively inconvenient. And this is why I always sort of roll my eyes whenever anybody gets announced as pregnant, because it's like, oh, great. So that's going to mean that there's automatically then a layer to the character that instantly becomes unbelievable, because they can never remember that the kids are there. Like I say, Kim's got 2 kids. Somebody coming in and watching EastEnders every now and again would not know that Kim is the mother of 2 young children at all. At all. It's ridiculous.
Was it in Coronation Street? They had the story a year ago when that Chelsea and his wife had 5 children?
Chesney, yeah, they had octuplets. Octuplets. 8 children. Yeah.
How the heck are they going to have?
Stupid
how
idea.
Are they going to cast that?
That's the most stupid idea you could possibly think of for the future of the character. Absolutely ridiculous. I was a big watcher of Coronation Street at the time of that, and I was kind of like, that is the most stupid. If I was on the podcast for Coronation Street, if I was on Conversation Street, we heard your mention the other day, by the way, Conversation Street. Don't think we're not aware. This is your mention. Yeah. We love them dearly. It's I would have been kicking off like massively. 8. Can you imagine if they gave 8 kids to somebody in EastEnders? The rants we would be having about it. So. Ridiculous. I mean, it's even Sharon with Albie. Like, how often do we see Albie these days, really? It's kind of like, and how often do you think we're going to see this kid that Linda's about to push out? It's like, we don't even see Ollie that often anymore. What's going on?
I mean, it's always crying out for a creche, isn't it?
A creche. I was about to say that.
A
spin-off for the creche of Walford. There we go. That's when BBC 3 returns. That's the first. That's the first programme that I'd like to see, please. Children of Walford and the creche.
Hi everyone, this is future editing Alex. Unfortunately, the video became a bit encrypted or whatever at the end. on my part. So everything that was recorded for the last couple of minutes didn't actually end up getting saved. So here is Rob with the details of how you can get in touch with us.
You can contact us on Twitter, Instagram at Walford Weekly. You can find us on Facebook at Walford Weekly Podcast. If you're watching this on YouTube, don't forget to like, subscribe and click the bell to get notifications about any of the videos that we are posting at the moment. We're in mad video mode at the moment and will be for the foreseeable, we hope. You can find Ben's Roundup of the Week and the spoiler videos on there as well. You can listen to us on Apple, Podbean, Spotify or any of your favourite podcast sites. Please don't forget to get in touch with us about anything you like regarding EastEnders or anything in general. Come for a natter. robwalfordweekly@gmail.com or the other guy is on alexwalfordweekly@gmail.com. We'll be back next week. I'll have had my hair done. New shirt, you know. Possibly with a hangover, because that's the type of night I'm planning on having, that I'll still be suffering from it a week later. But we'll see what happens. So until then, we will both see you then. Bye!
Bye.